I'm Jack Parker, and this is my illustrated podcast about the evolution of film noir for Unit 33. The first text I'll be discussing is the classic film noir from 1944. Double Indemnity is an American film noir directed by Billy Wilder. The screenplay was based on James M. Cain's 1943 novella of the same name. The film follows the character of Walter Neff, who is portrayed by Fred MacMurray. It follows him from a typical day of selling insurance to then conspiring to murder a man known as Mr. Dickerson, with the aid of his wife Phyllis Dickerson, played by Barbara Stanwyck, with whom he forms a romantic attachment. Their plan was to trick Mr. Dickerson into signing a life insurance document in which the payout after his death could be doubled using a clause known as the Double Indemnity Clause. They would then kill him in such a way to put the clause into effect, and then use the large payout to live rich together. Double Indemnity is a classic example of a film noir. Most film noirs follow a character and their fall from grace, usually due to their own desire and lust. In this particular noir, we see an ordinary man be convinced to murder and put his whole career at risk, for, as the character says himself, "I killed him for money and a woman." But of course, like in most noirs, the character doesn't get away with their dishonest actions. With Ned being shot by Phyllis, and then being found out by his partner and close friend Barton Keyes. Noirs always have a focus on the idea of entrapment, murder, lust, or monetary gain through dishonest or self-destructive actions. In Double Indemnity, everything is not as it seems. The audience follows the story through Walter's eyes, only learning information as he does. This allows for the noir to have unexpected twists that would otherwise be ruined if there were more characters placed as a point-of-view character. This of course makes sense, since the story is being recapped by Neff in one long flashback. However, this does have a disadvantage. By having Walter be the one who is telling the story, it removes some of the tension due to the fact that the audience already knows how the story will end. Double Indemnity handles this very well, by having Walter slowly bleed out from a gunshot wound as he recaps, bringing back some of the tension and leaving the audience wanting to learn of how he got into his current predicament. This noir is also filled with many more staples of classic noir. The cinematography of the film enhances light and shadows. It is also shot from both high and low angles, another classic of noir. What this does is create a well-defined atmosphere, adding tension and enhancing the moods of the characters. It also uses reflections to add to this, such as obscuring a character's face through or with an object. The film is also full of classic props as seen in noir, such as top hats, long trench coats, cigarettes and cigars. The depiction of women is also very noir, with Phyllis being seen as someone to be desired, but also someone to watch carefully. Many noirs often use the femme fatale trope. This means having a woman use her sexuality to control those around her and having them aid her with her goals. Phyllis uses Walter to get rid of her husband and make her money, all whilst he is convinced that the money will be for the both of them and that they will live together, only to have her betray him in the end with her shooting him. Over the years, classic noir gave way to more modern cinema. The second text I'll be looking at is a neo-noir. A neo-noir is style often seen in modern motion pictures that predominantly use elements of classic noir, but with updated themes, content, style, and visual elements, or even media that was absent from the old noirs of the 1940s and 50s. Blade Runner is a 1982 American neo-noir and science fiction film directed by Ridley Scott. It is a great example of a neo-noir. The film depicts a dystopian Los Angeles in which genetically engineered replicants, which are usually indistinguishable from adult humans, are manufactured by the powerful Tyrell Corporation. The use of replicants on Earth is banned, and they are exclusively utilized for dangerous work off-world. Replicants who defy the ban and return to Earth are hunted down and killed or retired by Special Force operatives known as Blade Runners. The plot focuses on a group of recently escaped replicants hiding in LA, and the retired expert Blade Runner Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, who reluctantly agrees to take on one more assignment to hunt them down. The film utilizes many themes found in classic noir, as well as its use of science fiction. Noir is known for its use of law officials as main characters, and the moral and immoral choices they must make in their careers. However, in neo-noirs, the characters tend to have a personal code that they follow, something they hold very dear. A conflict often arises from them having to decide between breaking their code or not. Rick Deckard's job is to hunt and kill replicants, but he could not bring himself to kill and even had feelings for Rachel Rosen, of whom herself was a replicant. Neo-noirs such as Blade Runner tend to have more extreme themes than their classic counterparts. Such examples can be found throughout. Both the violence and sexual actions that take place in the film are far more extreme than in classic noirs. In classic noir, you can find a lot of violence, such as fistfights, gunfights, and more. But the way they are depicted in classic material was brief, often implied and left unseen. In Blade Runner, the audience sees most of the violence. Blood was basically unseen in classic noir, but neo-noirs show both the blood and the horror. One could say that this takes away from the imagination and fear of the unknown. This is true, but sometimes seeing the horror firsthand can be far more real and hard-hitting than leaving it to be implied. In Blade Runner, the audience witnesses the death of Pris firsthand. They see her get shot and they see her writhing in pain as she bleeds out screaming. This is something you will not find in a classic noir film. The sexual nature featured in the film, such as the sexualization of characters, is also extreme compared to classic noir. Once again, what would usually be implied in classic noir was often shown and even demonstrated in Blade Runner. Of course, most women in classic noirs use their sexuality to persuade the other characters, but in neo-noirs, the audience often witnesses the sexual actions, leaving little to the imagination. What was often implied tended to also be more explicit than in the classics. Although in the final release of Blade Runner, the narration was removed, other neo-noirs such as Memento from the year 2000 often used an unreliable narrator. They are much more prominent and used to a greater effect in neo-noir films than they were in the classic noirs. The narrators are often unreliable and trick the audience into thinking something. This is done to trick the audience into a false sense of security, allowing the plot to further surprise them to a greater effect. The final text that I will be discussing is in fact not a noir at all. It is, however, noir-inflected. Marvel's Daredevil, or simply known as Daredevil, is an American web television series created for Netflix by Drew Goddard, based on Marvel Comics' character of the same name. The first season of Daredevil sees lawyer by day Matt Murdock, played by Charlie Cox, use his heightened senses from being blinded as a young boy to fight crime at night on the streets of New York City's Hell's Kitchen neighborhood as the superhero, or perhaps seen as an anti-hero, Daredevil. Marvel's own chief creative officer Joe Questel even stated, "Although these are superhero stories, this is different now. This is the street-level noir side of the Marvel Universe, something that you haven't really seen before in any of the other Marvel movies, and probably more grounded than anything you've ever seen." Daredevil has a lot of noir elements, not just in its cinematography, but also in its characters and storyline. A lot of the scenes in Daredevil take place at night, only using background lights to illuminate a scene, something found in both classic and later neo-noirs. In one scene, Matt is fighting his old friend and mentor Stick, played by Scott Glenn, in his apartment. Due to them both being blind, the lights of the apartment are left off. With it being night outside, the only light entering the room is coming from a large video screen playing advertisements and other lights just outside the windows. The light allows the audience glimpses of what's happening in the fight. That, plus the obscure camera movements, which can also be found in classic noir, add to the tension and excitement of the scene. They both even change the light of the scene at one point by knocking a lamp during their fight. Once again, this scene and others seen in Daredevil are even more extreme in terms of violence than those found in both classic and even the neo-noirs. This scene is also a good example of how music is used to set the tone of a scene. This of course can be found in many forms of media, as well as noir. The characters in Daredevil are also typical of noir. Both Matt and his friend Foggy are lawyers, which links them well with classic noir, which is filled with police and the focus on law. Matt spends his days using the law to help defend people, and at night he goes outside of the law to do the same. He crosses the line. However, he still has rules, much like in neo-noirs. Matt will fight, but he will not kill, a rule that he has tested daily when fighting those who would happily kill him. The story follows their journey to becoming full lawyers and learning the truth about their city, and how much of the police and even the media are all in the pocket of an unknown man, a man that they come to learn is called Wilson Fisk, that they eventually bring out of hiding with their investigation, and he is revealed to be the monster he really is. This is also a key part of noir, the unknown, not knowing who to trust and why things are as they are. Over the years, noir has shaped both movies, TV shows, and many other forms of media. Although the days of classic noir are long gone, it lives on in modern day through the media that itself owes everything to noirs that came before, and that means that noir will never truly be left behind.